The rain hadn't stopped all evening. It slanted across the cracked windshield of Daniel Reid's old pickup, turning the world into streaks of silver and shadow. The dashboard clock blinked 8:42 p.m., the time his sister had told him dinner would start. "Don't be late this time, Danny," she'd said, laughing over the phone that morning. "You only turn 40 once." But now the smell of wet asphalt filled the cabin, and the headlights caught something strange in the middle of the rural highway, something that didn't belong. Figure. Shivering, holding what looked like a bundle. Daniel hit the brakes hard. The tires screamed against the water-slicked road. His heart pounded as he stepped out, rain immediately soaking through his flannel shirt. The figure turned toward him, a woman drenched, wearing a torn silver-gray coat. The bundle in her arms moved. "Hey, you all right?" he shouted over the rain. Her eyes flicked up. Even in the dim light, he saw they weren't normal. Pale violet, catching the light like cut glass. "Please," she said softly, her accent strange and melodic. "My child, he's cold." Daniel blinked, unsure if he'd misheard. But when she opened her coat slightly, he saw a small face, blue-tinted skin, faintly luminescent veins beneath the surface. He took a step back instinctively, then forced himself still. "You both need help," he said finally. "There's a diner not far down the road. It's warm there." She hesitated. No, too many eyes. Something in her tone, fear, exhaustion, cut through his confusion. Daniel sighed. He looked back at his truck, then at her trembling hands. "All right. My place is 10 minutes away. It's not much, but it's dry. You can get warm, and I'll figure out what to do." Her violet eyes searched his face for a moment. Then she nodded. The stranger and the firelight. By the time they reached his small cabin on the edge of Pine Hollow, the rain had turned to sleet. Daniel threw an old blanket over her shoulders while she cradled the child closer. He lit the fireplace, the flames crackling to life, chasing away the chill. The woman sat close to the heat, eyes reflecting the firelight in shimmering shades of lilac and gold. "What's your name?" Daniel asked, trying to sound casual as he poured 2 mugs of coffee. She hesitated. "Lyra. And the little one?" "Kale." She smiled faintly, brushing a trembling hand over the boy's head. The child looked about 4, though his features were delicate, almost translucent. He stared at Daniel curiously, eyes the same violet hue as his mother's. Daniel pulled over a chair. "You're not from around here, huh?" Lyra's eyes flickered toward the window. "Farther than you can imagine." There was something about the way she said it, so calm, so final, that made Daniel's pulse quicken. She was hurt, though. A small gash on her arm glowed faintly, like bioluminescent coral. When he reached to grab the first aid kit, she flinched. "It's all right," he said quietly. "I'm just trying to help." Her gaze softened. After a pause, she nodded. When he dabbed the wound with a cloth, the glow pulsed brighter, then dimmed as if whatever she was made of was recalibrating. "This isn't blood," he murmured. Lyra met his eyes. "No, it isn't." The secret beneath the skin. They ate what he had, canned soup and stale bread, but she thanked him like it was a feast. Kale smiled shyly when Daniel gave him a chocolate bar from the cabinet. "You came through the storm alone?" Daniel asked after a while. "We didn't mean to be here," Lyra said, staring into the flames. "Our ship was damaged. I tried to hide, but there were people, soldiers I think. They were looking for us." Daniel frowned. "Government?" She tilted her head. "Men who wore your sky symbol." "The Air Force," Daniel said quietly. His stomach twisted. Lyra nodded. They will not stop until they find us. But Kale is too weak to travel. His body, it cannot handle your world for long. He noticed now how Kale's breathing had slowed. The boy's skin shimmered faintly under the firelight, a constellation of light moving beneath. Is there anything I can do? Daniel asked. Lyra looked at him, really looked. You already have. He wanted to ask more, but exhaustion crept in. It had been a long day, and the soft sound of the storm outside felt almost comforting now. He gestured to the spare bedroom. You two should rest. You're safe here. She rose slowly, Kale asleep in her arms. Daniel, she said before leaving the room, why did you stop for us? He shrugged. Because it looked like you needed someone. Her eyes glimmered in the dim light. On my world, they say compassion is the rarest form of courage. Perhaps that's why we came here. 3. The knock at midnight. It was the sound of engines that woke him. Low, distant hums that grew louder by the second. Daniel bolted upright and went to the window. Through the trees he saw lights, bright white beams sweeping across the forest floor. Helicopters. He ran to the guest room. Lyra was already awake, her eyes wide with fear. Kale whimpered softly in her arms. They've found us, she whispered. Daniel's heart pounded. There's a trail out back that leads down to the ravine. You can hide there until they leave. Lyra shook her head. Kale won't survive the cold again. Then we make them look somewhere else, Daniel said firmly. He grabbed his jacket, loaded a flare gun, and moved toward the door. Daniel! He turned. She stood there, eyes bright with tears that caught the light like shards of amethyst. You don't understand what they'll do if they find you helping us. He smiled faintly. I've spent my whole life doing the right thing too late. Not this time. Then he ran into the storm. 4. The human distraction. The rain returned with fury, slashing through the night. Daniel sprinted through the mud, firing a flare in the opposite direction of his cabin. The red light streaked into the sky, bursting like a wounded star. Helicopter lights veered toward it immediately. He could hear voices shouting through megaphones, boots pounding through the wet earth. Target sighted. Move in. Daniel dove into a ditch, heart hammering, lungs burning. He waited until the sounds moved further away before circling back toward his cabin. When he got there, the back door was open. Lyra, he hissed. A faint glow shimmered behind the couch. She stepped out, Kale bundled tightly, the child's skin now pale and flickering like a fading flame. He's failing, she whispered. Daniel clenched his jaw. Tell me what you need. Heat, she said. More than this fire can give. Something powerful. He thought fast. The generator. It ran hot enough to melt ice if rigged wrong. Minutes later, he had the machine humming, wires stretched toward the old iron fireplace. Lyra placed her hands near the flame, and the air shimmered with strange energy. Kale's chest rose and fell, his glow strengthening. Then from outside voices again. Closer. Lyra looked at Daniel, panic rising. If they find us now, they'll take him. They'll take everything. Daniel stepped forward. Then we make sure they don't. Fire and light. The door burst open. 3 men in dark uniforms stormed in, rifles raised. Step away from them, one barked. Daniel lifted his hands slowly. There's a kid here, he's hurt. Let me explain. On the ground. But before he could comply, one of the soldiers turned his weapon toward Lyra. Her eyes flared literally, light spilling from them like molten glass. The air pulsed with a hum that made Daniel's skin prickle. The men froze mid-motion, their weapons trembling. Don't, Daniel said sharply, stepping between them. She's not a threat. She's a security risk, the lead soldier growled. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Daniel took a step closer, rain dripping from his hair. You're right. You don't. But I know what it looks like when a mother's trying to save her child. The man hesitated, confusion flickering in his eyes. That moment was enough. Lyra's hand lifted, and the light expanded outward like a silent explosion. When Daniel opened his eyes, the soldiers were gone. Only a faint shimmer in the air remained, fading like mist. Lyra slumped weak. I didn't harm them. Just moved them. Daniel caught her before she fell. Moved them where? Far enough, she whispered. 6. The goodbye gift. Dawn broke slowly, painting the wet world in shades of gray and rose. The helicopters were gone. The forest was quiet again. Lyra sat near the dying fire, Kale asleep in her lap. His glow steady once more. They'll come again, Daniel said quietly. You can't stay here. I know, she said softly. But we are safe for now. He nodded, then hesitated. Can you go home? She smiled sadly. Our ship is beyond repair. But there are others who will find us, once the signal clears. Daniel glanced at the boy. He'll be okay. Lyra touched her son's cheek. Because of you. He tried to laugh it off. Guess missing my birthday dinner was worth it. Her gaze softened. You humans. You measure time in years, in days. But what you did tonight, Kale will measure that moment for the rest of his life. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small crystal, glowing faintly with inner light. Take this. It will remind you that sometimes, the smallest kindness changes the vastest universe. Daniel took it, feeling warmth pulse through his palm. What is it? A memory, she said simply. Of what you are capable of. 7. The sky that remembered. By morning they were gone. No footprints, no sound. Just the faint smell of ozone in the air. Daniel sat on his porch, holding the crystal, watching the sun rise over the wet forest. He should have been exhausted, but instead he felt lighter. He didn't know if they'd made it. He didn't know if he'd ever see them again. But when he looked up, he saw a new star, a faint pulsing blue point in the sky that hadn't been there before. He smiled. Happy birthday, Danny, he muttered. The crystal pulsed once, softly. Somewhere far beyond, a mother and her child drifted between the stars, a human memory guiding their way home.